Before Maury and Jerry and Judge Judy ruled the airwaves, before the pay-per-view smackdowns, before Michael Jackson and his antics fascinated the public, there was only one place to see the bizarre, the unusual, the weird, and the strange. It was the Traveling Sideshow. And every year when the circus or carnival came to town, for the small price of admission, you could gawk at a parade of midgets, giants and strong men, fat men and fat women, sword swallowers, fire eaters, alligator men, and tattooed women. Today, the sideshow is an institution in twilight. A hardscrabble patch of Americana quickly fading from the cultural fabric of our nation. Yet on a few carnival lots and fairgrounds, we can still find remnants of this once great tradition. A tantalizing spectacle of human oddities and outsiders. Live performers who pique our interest with morbid curiosity and capture our imagination with timeless acts and daring feats. All this for the cost of $1 or $2. Welcome to the Traveling Sideshow, where you will be shocked and amazed.
On our stage, you're going to see strange people alive doing strange things. They're real, they're human, they're alive.
It's the closing days of the Georgia State Fair, one of the last stops for Ward Hall and his World of Wonders after a long carnival season. Now, in his 55th year on the road, Ward Hall runs the last traveling sideshow with human oddities.
It's showtime!
The sideshow, as we know it, which started with Barnum, is indigenous to the United States. There were shows, there were human oddities in Europe or in England, but only in America. It's the 10-in-1 show.
10-in-1 is the carnival term for the sideshow, referring to the number of acts performed under one tent.
That's a loose term because it could be 13 acts, it could be 7 acts, but it would still be called a 10-in-1 sideshow. You know, there might be people with physical abnormalities, like the fat lady or the world's tallest man or things like that. And then there would be people that would do different stunts like sword swallowing, fire eating, and things like that. The future of tented sideshows, there isn't one. It's over now. And it's really a shame because the intimacy that is integral in being in a show of this sort, you know, a lot of times you're playing for 40 or 50 people and they're right up close, they can see you right up close. You know, there really is a part of Americana that just will never be recreated again. And it's really a shame. I'm really going to miss it.
See it as fast as you wish.
The World of Wonders captures a bygone era, a time when the public had to leave their homes to find good entertainment. Under the tent, one can still find an assortment of fire eaters, fat men, and shocking acts.
In the old days, there were hundreds of shows on a Carnival Midway. And so in my head, I had thought that I was going to kind of come out to something like that. Like I'd be on this working at the carnival, but there would be a lot more shows. And so when I got out here, it wasn't anything like that. And I found that we're the last traveling sideshow this big with live acts in it.
After working with World of Wonders for 3 years, Felicity and her husband Molotov are joining a Wild West show in the next season.
It's a shame that I wasn't born earlier where I would have been able to really cash in on these skills. We're happy to be able to make a living sword swallowing, knife throwing, whip cracking, doing all these things that only Ward Hall will hire you to do that. You really can't make a living breaking point. It would still be a dying industry, and it's sad, but at the same time, it's exciting for me just being on the tail end of the comet because you're traveling every day, you're doing a lot of shows every day. Not a lot has changed in that respect since they were in wagons.
There was a time when the carnival or circus or even the state fair came to town that everyone would come out to greet its arrival. It might be the only live entertainment for miles around, and it would electrify a community. There was every manner of show possible, from wild to the exotic to the downright scary. But one thing was certain, there was always a sideshow.
There's excitement everywhere. The circus is here. Everyone is headed for the big top to thrill to and cheer the fun makers, daredevils, freaks, and ferocious performing animals. Now, folks, step right this way to the bigger, better, more exciting sideshows.
P.T. Barnum is credited as being the father of the sideshow. He perfected the art of showmanship at his American Museum in New York City by putting human oddities on display. The public was fascinated by the likes of General Tom Thumb, Chang and Ang, the original Siamese twins, Jojo the dog-faced boy, and William Henry Jackson became Zip the Pinhead, the original What Is It? In later years, when live attractions weren't nearby, there was always the newsreel, footage of Johnny Eck the half-boy, and William Perry, otherwise known as Popeye, entertained audiences in movie theaters.
Robert Earl Hughes of Baylis, Illinois is just 20 years old, and carrying around those 720 pounds would tire out a fella twice his age. His mother, Mrs. Georgia Hughes, says he was a perfectly normal child at birth, and his abnormal growth resulted when he burst a gland in his neck. With 2 6-foot tape measures sewn together, it's just a neat 109 inches around Robert's equator.
The appetite for sideshow freaks became insatiable, but the newsreel was no substitute for the real thing, and the public continued their love affair with human oddities at the circus and carnival Midway. But the sideshow was just one aspect of the Midway experience.
There were over 1,000 other shows. Every little carnival at that time had about 6 rides and 5 or 6 shows. A medium-sized carnival would have 12 rides and 15 shows. And a big carnival would have 20 rides and 25 shows.
Going to the fair was a family experience. There was something for everyone. Rides for the kids, shows for the adults. No one was left out. It was family entertainment at its best.
We were a flavor. You have to have a little this, a little that. So that's what the fair was about. There was a side show, there was a fat show, there was a motordrome, there was this, there was that. That made the taste, the flavor of a fair.
At one point, there may have been thousands of shows crisscrossing the country each summer. From pygmy villages to Wild West shows, practically any subject was covered.
They had the big minstrel show, they had the big girl review, they had another posing show, they had a big monkey show, they had a big torture show, they had a big 10-in-1 side show, they had a big 10-in-1 illusion show, and probably 15 grind shows.
Your attention, please, to the lovely little lady on my right.
The grind show was one of the staples of the Midway. The objective was to move people through fast.
It's a grind show. You're doing 20 shows a day, sometimes more. And your throat gets tired and you don't talk. You just, you don't want to talk to people. You're just going to do this show, swallow the sword, and let them go on to the next thing. Lady Sandra was telling me how she used to clean them with Listerine and then put oil. She'd lightly put vegetable oil on just to keep her throat from getting sore from swallowing swords all day.
But there was one style of show that put a different spin on the word grind.
A carnival in the 20s, 30s, 40s even into the 50s, brought into town a certain amount of wonderful wickedness.
Behold, 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 the Vestal Virgins. These young ladies are prepared to perform for your edification.
They had girl shows. They had reviews with dancing girls. They danced the hoochie coochie, they grind and they bump. And in the later years, they do strip.
Ladies and gentlemen, we offer you the ceremonial ritual of love. This artistic presentation has been handed down through the ages. So step right into the tent with the little ladies. All right, girls, in you go. Hurry, 25 cents. And this.
The reviews had a walkover ballet stage. In other words, it would be a wagon front on the semi, and the steps would come up and the people would walk over and go down into the tent. And anytime you find a line of people waiting, other people come and get in that line. That's just an automatic thing. But the girl shows, they had a ballet stage that they'd bring the girls out on, but the doorway was always at ground level so that the old farmers could sneak in and out without being seen by their friends.
Whether it was a girl show, a freak show, or a grind show, there were certain essential elements that guaranteed success.
There's two things you need: good pictorial paintings and a good talker. Freaks, wonders, and curiosities. A panorama of the strange, the weird, the odd, the bizarre, the macabre, and the unusual.
While we've got 11 attractions under that tent, I'd like to call your attention to 2 or 3, particularly young Ajax.
There he
young
is.
man presenting an act just a little bit different from the average sideshow attraction.
The talker or lecturer is very important in a show like this because he's the audience's guide. Every sideshow I've ever seen has had one.
Got a chicken in there with a man's face. Born with no beak. It's got 2 lips, a nose, and a pair of ears, and it lives.
There are 2 kinds of sideshow attractions, the ones that are sort of medical monsters and the ones that are entertainers or self-made.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's just a sample of the class of dances these Oriental girls do. Can you imagine what they'll do on the interior of that town?
The talkers had a golden tongue and the power of persuasion. But perhaps the thing that hooked us even more was the sideshow banner.
So hurry, look 'em over the lady without a head.
Canvas banners were larger than life, with depictions of bizarre and unusual acts, creatures beyond belief. Talkers threw out the lines, and banners reeled them in. The human oddity, the sideshow freak, was irresistible.
Often the banner was better than the act. Like, you know, you should see the act and then pay admission to see the banner, most of the time.
Banners captured our imagination with overhyped embellishments. Often the exhibits were mundane or routine, sometimes slightly bizarre. Often they were merely illusions or hoaxes, which suckered us in with astonishing visual images.
Being swindled in the sideshow, if it's done well, it can become part of tradition. Like being hoodwinked sometimes is worth the admission, you know, because it's also fun. It's good fun.
I have this one banner that I have, it's a long one. It says, giant bat, big enough to kill a horse. 600 pounds. You have to see it to believe it. It's awesome. Blood-curdling. It'll send chills up and down you. Big bat. Now when they were going in, people were going, so where's the bat? Where's the bat? I don't see the bat. And what it was is I had this artisan do this for me. I had him carve me a baseball bat. That's it. Ow. And then they go out. But what the hell, they see 15 things for $1. What do they want?
There's no honest men among us. They don't exist. We all get cheated.
The sights and sounds of banners, talkers, and endless ballyhoo were the essence of the Carnival Midway.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to behold a sight so strange, so horrifying, so utterly monstrous, that I urge those of you who are easily frightened or upset to forego witnessing this exhibit.
I wanted to have real superheroes in my life. And my father, he understood my passion that I knew there was real superheroes. I knew there was real magic, and I didn't want to let that slip away. And he knew it too. I saw sideshow banners that said, Lobster Boy, alive. And I thought, Spider-Man, Lobster Boy, Superman, Elephant Man, this man, that man. And I started drawing the connections to all these things. And I said, these are real superheroes.
By the late 1950s and early 60s, human oddities began vanishing from the sideshow tents, succumbing to old age economics and a wave of political correctness. The Midway has been changed forever by their absence.
Now, wait a minute. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a special scene.
See, the freak shows as we know them are primarily gone. What we have is a circus sideshow, which has primarily working acts. How come sideshows are not out anymore? It's not because there ain't none around. It's not because there isn't people that could run them.
Watch Mephisto, the king of fire and flame. What a way to make a living.
What's happened is the sideshow business was aced out by big rides.
Live on stage, strange people from strange places doing strange things.
As rides began to dominate the carnival scene, fair owners realized they created larger profits, and the sideshows gradually disappeared. Sadly, several generations have now missed out on the sideshow experience and the wonders of it all.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
But in a few places scattered throughout the country, we can still find traces of this great American tradition. Live performers who put it all on the line with eye-popping acts and museums that now pay tribute to ghosts of a bygone era. Every Labor Day, there's a buzz in the air in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It's the annual Ink in the Valley Tattoo Convention. At one time, the only heavily tattooed people you could find were in sideshows, but today it's a common sight. Well, almost.
I have a mole, and I don't like it, so we went around it and made him into a spider, and we webbed him out.
Hundreds converge here to expand their body of art. It's fun for the whole family.
My wife's not here. I'm here with my parents.
I'm Mom. I'm not his wife.
Mom.
I'm his mother.
This is Mom.
Some of these works are quite elaborate. It's fun for kids of all ages.
I'm 70 years old. And the easiest place? There's no smooth stuff left. The easiest place is right here.
But you're here now. Get a tattoo.
For others, there was no need for the hard sell.
You know, I figured you ain't got but one life to live. Might as well do it.
Some of these galleries take years. Themes are always popular.
It's the killer clown.
Everybody's got a story to tell.
I'm really biblical. I like my Bible. I'm into my scriptures, you know, where it's just going to be a big theme, a big biblical theme.
And amongst the random convention knickknacks and items for sale, this year's convention has a new attraction.
No pictures, me. No pictures.
Down the hall, there's a new addition to the festivities. Another group of like-minded characters.
I'm here for the Sword Swallowers Convention.
This assembly is the first of its kind anywhere. The Sword Swallowers even have their own association.
This is an organization set up by sword swallowers for sword swallowers, and not to create new baby sword swallowers, newbie sword swallowers, but instead just to establish those who are already established sword swallowers and network them together.
Performers have come here from the world over.
I'm the only sword swallower in Iceland.
Here we are at a sword swallower convention. What do you think Al Goldstein would say?
These guys make it look so easy. There's got to be a secret to it.
There's learning to suppress the gag reflex. Secondly is finding the right placement, getting used to putting it down the esophagus, putting the esophageal sphincter a little bit lower in the stomach, and then getting it down into the stomach, and overcoming the retch reflex that the stomach has.
I want to see something different.
I do other stuff too. Sword swallowing is not my only trick.
Sword swallowers by nature get up on stage to swallow a sword for the attention.
Woo! Sword swallow!
It's something that they can do that nobody else can do. So sword swallowers tend to have a bit of an ego.
I could swallow this.
I know there's some personality clashes. There's a little bit of snarling here and there, but so far nothing has really exploded.
But this weekend is about more than just swords.
And a hush falls over the crowd.
There's something else going on here.
Welcome, one and all. My name is Todd Robbins, and I want to welcome you to the very first Sideshow gathering. Yeah, well, sure.
Fans have converged here to revel in all things sideshow, and the best working acts have joined them.
We are here to celebrate all things of that strange and unusual form of entertainment known as the Sideshow, the Freak Show, the 10 and 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the only show that is a Darwin Award waiting to happen.
People say sword swallowers, the sword goes into the handle. Here. How about I swallow the handle?
No sharp object or household tool is safe when it's around these guys.
Oh, yeah. Is that brains on there? No, it's not.
Wanna lick?
Balloon animals won't do for this crowd. This is one place where the label Carney is a badge of honor. The Sideshow gathering features one shocking act after the next, all real, all dangerous.
Here, here. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue now with our next performer.
Look. Some of these acts are not for the faint of heart or the squeamish.
Take it. There. Is that simple enough?
I do an act which would be called a fakir act or a torture act. I'm showing something both entertaining and educational.
Human pincushions go back thousands of years with roots traced to Far Eastern mysticism and tribal ceremonies. As performance art, it's a Sideshow staple.
Now watch.
It looks painful.
You know when it hurts? It's when you pull it out.
You take a chance of getting hurt.
Oh, you ripped it. Oh well, that's still 70% of the bill.
Hey, look, it's a dress. Oh, that ain't right.
Okay, this is the dangerous part. Jump.
My wife thinks what I do is very entertaining. When she met me, I was already doing it, so she can't tell me to stop.
Some people need to learn the hard way.
What? Am I hurt?
I had a horrific accident last year. I almost died.
I hate when that happens.
One more time. Oh, go for a third.
I ripped my esophagus.
I lost 53% of all my blood.
I've been breaking bricks in my head for a while. I didn't really like doing it because I got hurt by one of my previous partners.
You have to treat every time as if it's your first time, otherwise it might be your last.
Okay, this is great.
This weekend in Wilkes Bar is a full-fledged Sideshow experience. There's more going on here than meets the eye.
You've seen all the performance, the sword swallowing, that aspect of sideshows, but there was also the museum aspect.
Curiosities were a traditional part of the Sideshow tent. And here at the Sideshow gathering, there's no shortage of oddities.
This is the world's smallest human head. They were exhibited on sideshows. Some of them were real, some of them were phonies, you know, but they were a big draw. Some shows were nothing but shrunken heads.
We're here for the sideshow, and we brought our two-headed turtles.
Same butt for them both, though. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. This here is the devil pig. This is the barnyard terror, the horror of Clovis, New Mexico. People look at it and they say, that's it? This is an ordinary pig in a jar. But wait, you turn it around and what do you see? You see two complete spines coming out of it.
That was the best part of the fair, the freak show and the girly show.
Freaks always make for interesting stories, so there's gotta be a colorful tale behind Sparky the two-headed cow.
A spook house went out of business, and he went up for auction, and I jumped right on him.
And he had to wake me up in the middle of the night to tell me that he bought that cow. And when he did, I thought he was really sick, because I didn't know he bought the cow.
It was Christmas time, and it really hurt. She was saving the money on presents, and I was out spending it on freaks.
I'm a freak.
I just really like infusing a little bit of oddity or surreality into someone's day.
Why else would they call you the Lizardman?
Once a doctoral student of philosophy, Eric the Lizardman Sprague cut short his education to live the life of a sideshow freak, and he lives it 24/7.
Now I have over 600 hours of tattooing that covers my body.
All right, make sure everything is secure. If If you guys count me to 3 on 3, I will do everything I can to get this off the ground. Ready?
I have my subdermal implants. It's Teflon mounted in subdermal tissue over my eyes, give me my horned ridges. I've had my teeth filed with a dentist drill, and of course my split tongue.
Extreme isn't a description, it's a way of life for the Lizardman.
1, 2, 3!
He's taken sideshow performance art to new, bizarre heights, pushing his body to the limit. All these acts of the extreme are prelude to the weekend's one grand event. The Big Swallow.
We will be gathering everyone onto the stage in a line, and everyone will be simultaneously raising their swords and dropping them down to set the world's record for most swords swallowed at one time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
To set the world record, final preparations are made.
19, 19, 19.
Strategies discussed and rules declared.
More than 8 inches. More than 8 inches.
And what record-shattering ceremony would be complete without a guy in a suit?
I am going to watch how many people swallow swords and how many are swallowed. Al DiMario, certified public accountant.
With 19 assembled on stage, the attempt is made.
3, 2, 1, swallow! And hold it down as long as you can.
The first time I swallowed a sword was a very unique experience. A lot of bizarre sensations inside of your body, very uncomfortable. You feel like you're going to vomit, make a lot of really horrid noises.
Will the accountant please come up and count how many swords each one swallowed?
It's 11 for you.
11.
11?
Show off.
I've swallowed 11 swords now, and the world record was 10.
And new total, swords swallowed, 50. 19 sword swallowers.
And what was the group consensus after the record was set?
The fact that we could put down 50 swords between all of us, that was easy. The fact they could all stand on stage together, that was a feat.
Maybe the experts have some advice for would-be sword swallowers.
If you want to become a sword swallower, don't do it.
Hey, no pictures. Come on, no pictures.
New York City's Times Square has long been considered the greatest hub of live entertainment in the country, but it's also been the starting point of the American sideshow. More than 150 years ago, this art form took shape on variety theater and dime museum stages throughout the city, and eventually gave rise to such great institutions as vaudeville and burlesque. For years, people flocked to 42nd Street for all manner of entertainment. But one venue is indelibly etched into the annals of sideshow history. Professor Heckler's trained Flea Circus, the longest-running show on Broadway.
Professor Heckler performed maybe 50 shows a day, from morning till midnight. And a lot of people, when they talk about Times Square, the old Times Square, that's what they talk about, is the Flea Circus.
For more than 50 years, the name Heckler was synonymous with Hubert's Museum.
In 1957, Professor Heckler left Times Square because he said that the nude shows were giving his fleas a bad name. So now they cleaned up Times Square, and I thought it was the right idea to bring the fleas back.
Adam Gertzikoff is a Barnum-trained clown who has resurrected the once fabled Flea Circus nearly 50 years after its Times Square departure.
Oh dear, I left the door open.
Based out of Rhode Island, Gertzikoff takes his Acme miniature circus around the country.
Well, basically, it's a Victorian-style flea circus, genuine, actual fleas, in which I train the insects to perform spectacular circus stunts, as seen before and on top of the crowned heads of Europe. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Madge will dance on the tight wire while balancing this miniature chair and pole.
Gertzikoff's half-hour performance showcases a series of miniature stunts performed in a handcrafted arena.
Maestro, s'il vous plaît. The spotlight. My show's really based on the experience of the audience. I really want the audience to come in. I sell 10-cent programs because really, if you haven't bought the program, if you haven't bought a postcard, if you haven't been bamboozled by the Flea Circus guy, you really haven't been to the show. 5, 4, Flea, 2, 1. You know, my show is really a little miniature theater play that happens to include a magnificent spectacle of trained fleas. Let me see, lights! Ladies and gentlemen, Midge and Madge have made another successful trip through the flaming hoop of death!
The Acme Flea Circus reminds us of an era of cheap, popular entertainment before TV and movies took over. For more than 4 decades, vaudeville was king. And for a time, circus and sideshow acts found a home on variety stages. Today, a hardworking troupe of performers has brought this entertainment combo back to Times Square. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bendel Stiff Family Circus.
Amazing Bendel Stiff Family Circus! Circus, vaudeville, variety! It's all live, it's all real, and it's all on the inside, so come on folks, step on in! Step through the doors, because the freaks are waiting to see you! Come on, sir,
For the cost of a movie ticket, an audience is treated to a live variety show right here on 42nd Street. Accompanied by their house band, the Bendel Stiffs take their show across the country to nightclubs, colleges, and art galleries, anywhere they can secure an audience. The Bendel Stiff Family Circus is the brainchild of performers Keith Nelson and Stephanie Mansa, who have been paying tribute to the early days of live entertainment and the vaudeville tradition for almost 10 years.
So, without further delay, let me introduce the Empress of Vaudeville, Madame Philomena.
My character is Philomena Bendel Stiff. I'm the ring mistress of the circus. I MC, I introduce the acts. I lie on the bed of nails, I walk on the broken glass.
Oh, hi, everybody. How you doing out there? Are you ready to rock?
As we got more interested in sideshow acts, we knew we wanted to tour. We knew we were going to spend the next several years eating out of cans of beans because you don't make any money doing this. So Bendel Stiff was the name for us. And it actually is an old word for hobo or traveler.
Variations of sideshow standards are included in each show, but it doesn't stop there.
I cover quite a bit of ground, going from being a tramp clown to doing sideshows. You'll see me spin a rope, you'll see me spin a rope with my tongue. I will do a Diablo act, which is like the giant yo-yo. Do the human blockhead, sword swallowing. I always like sword swallowing because it was the grossest to learn and took the longest to some degree. I mean, 5-ball juggling's taking probably just as long, if not a little bit longer.
He would practice every morning. I'd hear him in the living room with a wooden spoon down his throat. It was just awful. Before breakfast, of course.
The body does not want 24 inches of solid steel going down the throat. I mean, it really, in the beginning, does everything it possibly can to keep you from wanting to do that. And, you know, for a couple years, the body said, "What the hell are you doing?"
Was enough for you.
In true vaudeville tradition, the double entendre is a standard of the act.
By the looks of it, a few of you out there probably tried swallowing, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches. But I have a feeling few of you have 24 inches.
Oh my God!
24 inches of solid steel. But you'll be going all the way down my throat, past the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, and, well, tickling the bottom of my stomach.
Although based out of New York City, the Bendel Stiffs still take the show on the road. The troupe has expanded beyond its early days as a duo. Now it includes several regulars as well as members who sign up for short stints. Over the past several years, one frequent performer has been Magic Brian, who brings his animal-friendly geek act to the troupe.
Tonight, Magic Brian will be doing the famous geek act in which he will be geeking a chicken.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real rubber chicken. So I warn you now.
For those out in TV land, that means biting the head off of a chicken for your perverse pleasure, which is actually an act that is classic in sideshow tradition, but has been banned in most states in the United States.
And rightfully so. It's bloody awful. Bloody, bloody, bloody.
Years ago, live chickens or snakes were part of the geek act. Today, some might think Magic Brian is the real deal.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when the geek was done, pardon me, blood lodged in my throat.
Of course it's real. Are you kidding? Is that a serious question? Everything in here is real, real, real. Or your money back. No, I don't want to say that.
No matter what the cost, the Bendel Stiff Family Circus fulfills its mission of providing live, affordable entertainment to the public. The Bendel Stiffs recently lost their residency in Times Square, another victim of corporate progress. But in hobo tradition, they continue to bring their circus on the road, and they may be coming to a town near you soon.
It was edgy seat, you know, you ain't expect what they were gonna do next. It was pretty good, pretty good.
It's the kind of thing you want to see more of. I'd do it again.
In 1841, P.T. Barnum's American Museum was the showcase for the weird and the bizarre, and it included the mysterious Fiji Mermaid. What? You've never heard of the Fiji Mermaid?
Fiji Mermaids. Barnum commissioned these banners to be presented around town of these beautiful women with fishtails, and, you know, calling people to come and see the Fiji Mermaids. And when they got there, it was a fishtail with the monkey sewed on and human hair and glass eyes. And it's wonderful.
Joe Coleman should know. He owns one. But if you want to see one for yourself, just head to New York City. Mermaids are just one of the many oddities found in Johnny Fox's remarkable collection of the strange and bizarre.
Welcome to New York City, New Amsterdam, home of the Freaka Toria. Come on, I'm going to show you around.
New York's Lower East Side is home to Johnny Fox's Freaka Toria. The storefront museum is a treasure trove of some of the earliest sideshow memorabilia.
Well, the Freaka Toria pays tribute to the Bowery dime museums of the 1880s, the Victorian age. Many of these performers that you see pictured here were photographed on the Bowery. It's where Jojo, the dog-faced boy, was exhibiting himself. This is where all these other characters, magicians, got their starts in dime museums.
A look inside the Freakatorium is like stepping back in time.
The Freakatorium is presented in a Victorian style, packed with narwhal tusks from Admiral Perry, and the taxidermy is Victorian taxidermy. Try to keep everything 1912 and earlier. There are some exceptions. We go up to into the 20s with the mutoscope here, with having the little peep show.
On every wall and in every case, you can see the unusual, the grotesque, and the truly bizarre.
Bone fragments of St. Matthew the Apostle. Go figure, here they are on the Lower East Side. Little slivers from the cross of Christ, too. There he is right there, the shrunken head formerly known as Prince. That's an actual human head of probably about an 18 to 20-year-old male from Ecuador. Sammy Davis's glass eye, there it is. Here's looking at you, freaks. Still making them smile on the Lower East Side, Sammy. It's the only thing in the collection that's not mine. It's on loan from a friend, and he was at the estate sale of Sammy Davis. Somehow, through some connection there, ended up with one of Sammy Davis's glass eyes.
But the Freakatorium really pays tribute to the legendary performers of the American sideshow.
There's a list of great sideshow greats that I always wanted to give them a prominent place in the Freakatorium. Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy, it was a household name. I mean, how can you not have Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy? It's like having a shrunken head. You can't have a Freakatorium and not have a shrunken head. You can't have a Freakatorium and not represent Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. So there he's up there next to Barnum. Lentini, the three-legged man. You gotta have him. I've got his last sideshow banners painted by Snap Wyatt as well. They got some great Tom Thumb stuff. His vest, wedding invitations from when his wife remarried Count McGree. One of my favorite pieces in the collection is the Charles Tripp carvings, pieces that he carved with his feet. Charles Tripp was the armless wonder who worked for P.T. Barnum in the 1880s and had a long, long career.
All facets of sideshow history are prominently displayed from floor to ceiling. But it's more than just a celebration of sideshow freaks. There is an abundance of memorabilia from the great working acts of the day, including a prominent display dedicated to Johnny's inspiration and mentor, the legendary Melvin Burkhart.
As far as the working acts go, top of the list, Melvin Burkhart. He was the inspiration for a lot of this stuff. He was a sword swallower, the human blockhead, the anatomical wonder. Melvin did so many different acts in the sideshow. There'll never be another. Melvin did the blockhead. That's him with this hammer right here. Hammered a spike into the skull, into the center of the skull. The center of the skull actually is the nose. That's right here. Kids, don't try this. The blockhead really gets people to squirm. People squirm on blockhead. They do not like to watch anybody. Women do not like to watch someone pound a spike in the nose. This isn't like putting beans in your nose. It's like putting spikes in your nose. Ah! Take me home to meet your dad, little girl. To get people to watch something that they don't want to see is a challenge for me.
When not at the Freakatorium, Johnny Fox can be found on the road, performing one of the most respected sword-swallowing acts in the country.
I love finding things that are different to swallow other than the sword. I have a giant screwdriver, a spoon, the coat hanger, scissors, the gun barrel, neon, the human jack-o'-lantern. Watch me glow. Neon is a must. I have to put neon in the act. And it's been a long time since sword swallowers had swallowed neon, and people said, don't do it. Sword swallowers told me, don't do it. I don't recommend people try sword swallowing. I've known too many people that have gotten hurt. Did you see it glow? It was common sword swallowers dying from neon. They would break, the tubes would break, and cut the esophagus, and the lungs would fill with blood. And it's a pretty quick death. Very, very, very dangerous. I've had a couple incidences where there've been blood on the swords, and I'm lucky. Born on Friday the 13th. I'll die on Friday the 13th too. Ooh, any blood? So a kid one time said to his dad, "Dad, look, there's blood on the sword." I didn't even know. I looked down and said, "I guess there is."
For millions of Americans, the carnival endures as a youthful rite of passage, passed on from generation to generation. Its lure is as strong as ever. But the mystique of the tented sideshows has virtually disappeared from the Carnival Midway.
Someday
all you're going to have out there is noisy rides, fun houses that are not so funny, and some guy hustling you for a teddy bear. No more sideshows. None of the real.
When we see those waving banners, there's an irresistible urge to peek inside in hopes of seeing someone put it all on the line. In the last quarter century, only a handful of showmen have traveled the country, keeping this beloved slice of Americana on life support. Ward Hall and Bobby Reynolds are among those few.
The only reason that I succeeded and have lasted so long is because I outlived all my competitors. I survived and succeeded through the law of osmosis.
Last show! Let's go! Hurry up, it's a continuous show. We're probably the last two left. But Ward is the king of sideshows. I'm the queen of sideshows. $10 from Dallas. She's so big and so fat, takes 4 men to hug her in the box.
Their royal pedigrees may be in dispute, but their legendary reputation goes unchallenged.
They are brilliant at what they do. They're the last of a breed. They can talk a mile a minute and sell ice to an Eskimo.
All you have to take the lady's head off and make it float in the air are 2 things. First,
that's 50 years of understanding of human nature and the ability to smooth talk them out of their money.
Stick at number 37. You got it. Go right on.
The sideshow conjures up strong feelings of nostalgia, a longing for what we have lost, and a desire to see it all over again. There was a time when nearly every young kid dreamed of running away to join the circus or carnival. The romance of the road and the excitement it offered were always intoxicating, and for generations, the sideshow was an added thrill.
When I was little, my mother would take me to the circus, and she would not tell me she was taking me to the circus. And when I grew up, I said, how come you never told me when we were going to the circus? And I would like really get nuts because you never told me you were taking me to the doctor either. And she said, well, I had to stop telling you I was taking you to the circus because you get so excited you lose your lunch.
For an adventurous few, the draw of the road was too hard to resist.
It's very romantic. I think that's one reason why I came out of here, because I had this romantic idea about traveling with a circus or a carnival and putting on shows. So when I got out here, I was very excited. I mean, everything was so big. The rides were all out here. It was like a big adult playground in a way.
For those living the carnival life, romanticism and nostalgia soon give way to a cold reality. Life on the road isn't always as glamorous as it seems, and it rarely leads to a pot of gold.
Living on a carnival lot broke every illusion I had about the beauty of the sideshow. It's a hard life, and it's not about, I don't think it's about preserving a tradition, it's about survival.
You know, I gotta tell you, when you reach my age and you find yourself eating light bulbs for a living, you've made some bad career moves along the way.
For those performers still working the carnival lots and sideshow tents, it's not about the money. The reward they seek is simple.
You know you've got somebody when you've seen them rubber. That's my reward when I see people, it's like. And then, of course, the highest compliment we can get is people will generally faint on a hot day. So when we decided to call that one a falling ovation.
These may be the final days of the traveling sideshow, but there is a new wave of performers and working acts who refuse to let grand traditions die. They're still out there, working in nightclubs, art spaces, and festivals, performing feats and acts that will shock and amaze.
So come on, folks, step on in. Step through the doors because the freaks are waiting to see you.